Today is episode 20 with Dr. B and the 8th Ask Dr. B show.
Welcome to the Harness Your ADHD Power podcast. If you're looking for a fresh perspective and actionable steps on hot topics from focus to follow through to self-management and more, you are in the right place. Welcome your host, innovative educator, coach, and psychotherapist, Dr. B.
Hey, ADDers. I am so glad that you could join me today for my podcast show. I still want to change things up a bit so that you don't get in a rut and stop paying attention in the moment because you anticipate what's coming next. Yes, there's definitely comfort in knowing what to expect, and it can also sabotage your attention and your focus. So what questions did you wake up with this morning? What tasks are you dreading because you have questions about what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and even if you should do it? Kind of summing it up, the question that I continue to wonder about is, what is the number one biggest struggle or frustration that you have right now? I really want to know. I do. So many people I know are feeling frustrated and stuck and stumped about what to do. And I know that I can offer you solutions and strategies and general information on so many topics related to life with adult ADHD. You just have to ask me. So I've created a couple of fast and fun ways for you to tell me about your struggles and to ask me questions. More on that later. If you're wondering what kind of questions you can ask me, here's some examples of what others have asked me over the years. Why can't I access the information I need when I need it? How can we improve time management when our brain feels so overwhelmed and chaotic? How can sensitive people with ADHD strengthen their resilience? Your questions matter to me. How are you going to do what you want to do if your mind is filled with questions and roadblocks instead of excitement and motivation? Where are you supposed to turn in times like that? Well, one place that you can turn is to me, which is one reason I created the Ask Dr. B format and the little survey recently. It's not just that we're a curious bunch, which we definitely are. You may also be sitting with huge gaps, like Swiss cheese, in your knowledge base, and hence you can't move forward on what you want to achieve. In fact, you may not even know what questions to ask to get the information that you need. Wouldn't it be wonderful if someone would say to you, "What do you want to do? And do you know how to do A, B, C, D, etc.?" And then you could tell them what you want to do, what you know and don't know, and because they know the sequence, they could answer your questions and guide you through the sequences of the tasks that you want to get done. How cool would that be? I think it'd be pretty cool. That's what I want to do. And if you're the kind of person who needs to have all the details up front before you step onto the path, and you have huge gaps in the process or the sequence of events, how exactly are you supposed to proceed? Seriously. You might know conceptually what to do, but that's not the same as knowing step by step what to do. And this has nothing to do with IQ, and it has everything to do with learning style. Some of you might need all the steps and the details first, and others might just jump in and kind of fly by the seat of your pants and fill in the details as you go along. Either way, you need what you need, plain and simple. And if you don't get what you need, you might just spin or ruminate or just be frozen or overwhelmed, and nothing gets done. I take your questions seriously. So if you have questions, head over to my website, and under podcasts, you'll see the Ask Dr. B button on the right side of that page. Just click the button and ask away. I'll be notified immediately, and I'll get to work on them for the next Thursday's show. And in the event that your question is outside the scope of my license or practice or knowledge base, I'll find a guest who can address your questions and have them answer and do so on the regular Monday show. Either way, you're going to get answers to the best of my ability to provide them for you. And if you want to share more with me about your pain and frustrations and are looking for solutions, then just take a few minutes to complete the quick and easy little survey that I created for you. The link is in the podcast information, it's in the show notes, and it's in today's podcast post on my website. You know, the more that I can learn about your challenges, the more specific solutions I can provide for you. And if you're a new listener, welcome. I'm honored that you're here. And if you're a regular listener, I want to thank you for your loyalty and for trusting me to share meaningful content with you in every single episode. And whether this is your first or your 20th time of listening to my show, you're going to hear me say time and time again that you are not what you do or don't do, that you are more than that we are not defective or less than as people, as human beings, that we're just wired differently, and that the difference is actually pretty cool. Once you have answers to your questions, once you know what you need to do and how to do it, and you have the best tools for you to get it done with the least amount of stress. It's my hope that you'll get some of what you need here. And remember, I'm a work in progress just like you. I've learned a lot about myself over the years because I've been willing to be a student of my own life, to step into the situations that present themselves to me, and to learn how to navigate what I find. This has meant learning how to quiet my challenges, and let me tell you, there have been plenty of them, and make the most of my gifts, which are more than I ever knew or dreamed was possible for me. And once I got the information that I needed, and I trust that you will too, amazing things are possible. I absolutely love my world map with the little flags marking all the countries and the states where you all are listening. It is so cool to me. I want to welcome new listeners in Japan since the last Ask Dr. B episode. It's very exciting to know that we are not alone at all in this. I'm not much of a world traveler. However, it's really exciting to know that my voice is traveling to all of you, no matter where you are on this planet of ours, that no matter where you're located, that you're listening and relating to the challenges and the stories and the solutions that I'm sharing with you. I want to thank all of you for listening and hopefully benefiting from this podcast show. And knowing that you're listening makes me really want to give even more of myself to your needs via this podcast and in so many other ways. You know, you are a blessing to me, and your presence in my life is beyond anything I'd ever imagined. So before I get to the questions and the answers, I have a question for you. And you've heard it before if you're a regular listener. It's about your state of mind and your wins. You know, I cannot emphasize this enough, and I'm going to continue to ask you about your wins every single time and to encourage you to acknowledge and celebrate them every day. You are the meaning maker of your life. You get to decide what to feed your mind and what to believe. Make it positive and make it count big time. So back to wins. I talk a lot about wins. Why? Because cultivating and having a wins mindset can transform how you experience your life. And I know that this is true from personal experience and from what you all are sharing with me about the impact of wins in your life. So have you been taking the time to look for your wins? Really look for them, seriously, and acknowledge them, celebrate them. Share them with others who appreciate what a big deal they are for you, and they celebrate with you. Are you doing this every single day? You know, I sure hope so, because there is truly magic in all of this. And what do I mean by wins? Well, they're those little things that happen every single day that are good things, positive things in the bigger picture of your life, and yet they go unnoticed, unacknowledged, and uncelebrated by you. It takes shifting your mindset, and it is totally worth it. Please do not be the person who continues to tell yourself that it's pointless to reward yourself for what you are supposed to do. That couldn't be further from the truth. Those are the very things that deserve and need to be celebrated so that they become easier to do consistently and they become more enjoyable each and every time you do them. So what's it going to be today? If you had a plan for today, that's a win. If you stuck with your plan for today and you didn't choose again in the moment, that's a huge win. If you gave one or two of your possessions new homes, that's a win. If you make sure that they get to their new homes every day, that's an awesome win. If you gave yourself a day off to just rest and decompress, that's a win. You get the point. Celebrate all of them. And none of this half-hearted celebrating. You've got to mean it. You've got to exaggerate your emotions. Yes, wow, awesome. And certainly, you need to celebrate the big wins too. It's just that they happen much less often, and so celebrating the daily wins makes a difference faster in your life because of the frequency. Shifting gears now. Today's episode is all about answering the questions that you have about issues or challenges that you experience as an adult living with ADHD and offering you hope, real hope. How much time do we have? Not much. So let's get to it. I want to thank you, my listeners, for today's questions on these three topics: feeling things more intensely, impulsively committing to too many things, and aversion to physical movement.
This podcast is sponsored by Pure Potential with Dr. B. You can head over to drbarbaracohen.com and find the podcast show notes, great free content from Dr. B, plus programs and services. That's drbarbaracohen.com.
Now back to being an adult with ADHD in today's world. You know, there's a lot of different reasons why you have the questions you do. It's possible that you have lots of misinformation, or you're missing steps or strategies or a philosophy or an understanding of yourself well enough to make good decisions on your own behalf. Everyone's reasons are different, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here to answer what I can for you. You know, I'm going to share each question with you. I'm going to share a little bit about the topic, offer my point of view about things that I hear within the question where it's appropriate, and my response to each question, which includes an action step to take. Yes, there's an action step to each question, because just hearing an answer isn't enough. You need to take action, or nothing changes. So don't let yourself off the hook here. It's really important. You do have the ability to respond to your needs, and I hope that at least one of these topics or questions is going to resonate with you and be of benefit. So let's keep going. Thank you to Candace in California for the first topic of feeling things more intensely. She asks and shared, does having ADHD mean that I just feel things more intensely? For so much of my life, I just thought that life was super intense, and everyone else somehow managed to be strangely calm and collected. Is this something that other ADHD people have experienced, feeling things very intensely, and also having to learn how to navigate the intensity and not get derailed by it? I know maybe a good aspect of this is remembering to direct that intensity to celebrating all the little wins of progress along the way, and to stay motivated and to remember intensity can be a good thing. Thanks so much for both of your questions, Candace. First, I'm going to say that it's important for you to know that you are not alone in just how intensely you experience life. In fact, bright, gifted, creative adults often experience a lot of what it is that you are describing. And going further with this, even though I haven't met all adults with ADHD, I don't think that all do experience the intensity that you refer to, even though many do. I believe it's more about one's emotional intelligence and emotional development than just ADHD alone. Quoting from Michael Pachowski's book, Mellow Out, They Say, If Only I Could, Intensities and Sensitivities of the Young and Bright, he states, feelings, strong emotions, deeply felt relationships, desires, and strivings make up the fabric of emotional life. To know one's feelings, to track their flow, and to find ways of expressing them is to be emotionally intelligent. It also means to nurture relationships with others and being aware of what others feel. So becoming self-aware is essential to becoming your true self. And one of the challenges of adult life with ADHD is that of being self-aware, particularly because of all the challenges of just getting through the day. And if you're wondering where the time is supposed to come from for you to spend time with yourself and become self-aware, you're going to have to carve out the time and claim it, or it's never going to be there. Many adults with ADHD experience feelings of confusion, overwhelm, frustration, analysis paralysis, and the need for perfection. And they may feel these feelings with great intensity. However, these are not the feelings that Pychowski is referring to. He's referring to feelings of intensity of life and engaging with them rather than being overrun by them. He refers to things like heightened psychomotor excitability, or putting it in plain language, being constantly physically active. If this is you, you might learn best by absorbing information physically, and you might need to move some part of your body or all of your body in order to focus your mind and pay attention. I know that part of repatterning my ability to read and comprehend better was done when I was walking on a treadmill and reading a book at the same time. He also talks about heightened sensual excitability, or in plain language, noticing the sensory qualities that are all around you, such as smells or textures. He referred to a little girl in one of his stories who sucked her thumb and pulled on or twirled her hair as a way to manage tension and stress or emotions that she experienced moment to moment. You know, he could have been talking about me as a kid because I was so like that. And perhaps you've had those experiences too. He also talks about heightened excitability of imagination, or in plain language, having a very vivid imagination that allows you to become something else, like an animal or another being. He also talks about heightened intellectual excitability, or in plain language, strong curiosity, full of questions, constantly wondering. If this is you, you might even ask a lot of why questions and then repeat the answer aloud when it's given to you as you ponder the new idea or the new concept, because that's a way that you might be processing it. Another concept that he talks about is heightened emotional excitability and sensitivity, or in plain language, being more sensitive to noises and activities around you. If this is you, you might need quiet time away from all the sensory inputs so that you can decompress your nervous system and not become overwhelmed. Shopping malls can be an overwhelming and stressful situation for many adults with this kind of sensitivity because of all of the noise and people and visual stimuli that's pulling at them in all directions. You know, it comes down to becoming self-aware, which translates to knowing what's good for you, what's not good for you, what's too much for you, what's not enough for you, and so on. And yes, part of the journey is learning how to navigate the intensities and not get derailed by them. They're sensations, input of information into your nervous system, and you need to know how much that you can take at one time without getting tanked, and then regulate the input accordingly. Just because someone else can take in more at one time doesn't make them better than you. It just makes them different than you, and perhaps more practiced at self-regulation or self-management. I hope that my input is giving you some things to consider about the intensities of life that you experience and how normal they are for someone like you. Transitioning to our next question. Thank you to Tammy in California for the second topic of impulsively committing to too much. She stated and asks, many ADDers are not time aware, and many impulsively commit to too many things, which elevate stress. How can you help someone like this not overcommit him or herself? Thanks for your question, Tammy. The topic of overcommitting and lack of time awareness could be its own episode, and it probably will. And for today, I'm going to be as to the point as I can. The lack of time awareness could be attributed to living in the zone of in time or in the moment, rather than through time or over time. And this lack of time awareness isn't just limited to those with ADHD. Many bright and gifted adults are also not time aware because they may be living in the moment of creation and not aware of their surroundings and the passing of time. You asked specifically how someone like this could be helped to not overcommit. I think the first step is in becoming aware of time and managing you within time. First would be to tease out, how do you think of time? Does it run out through your fingers? Is it hard to keep up with? Hard to catch? What's your image of time? Next would be to observe or pay attention to you interacting with time. What's your relationship with time? Is it an adversarial relationship? Is it a friendly relationship? Next would be to accept that everyone has the same amount of time, and it's how you manage the asset of time as well as manage you with that asset that's the difference between being overcommitted or not. If you're trying to cram too much into a day and aren't realistic about how long things take, or don't even know how long things take, then you have to learn how long things take for you so that you can use this information to not overcommit. If you get so excited about all the possibilities of life and all the things that are available to do, and you want to do everything, you're going to have to learn to choose to commit to those things that you absolutely must experience first so that you give them priority time. Making transitions eats up time. And if you don't factor in the amount of time of transitions throughout your day, you're going to end up overcommitted. You're going to need the ability to let go of something in order to embrace something else. A cute little quote that I read recently said that you can't embrace something new when your hands are still full of other things. A good argument for task completion, finishing up what you start so that you can have room for something new, instead of just ditching what it is that you started and going for the new thing regardless. Become time aware by setting a timer and seeing how long things actually take. Not becoming overcommitted by taking on new things before you're finished with the previous things that you've committed to. And if this keeps happening, then perhaps you're lagging on getting things done for the original commitment, so that when a new opportunity comes along, you aren't really available to commit to it. But you might anyway because you don't want to miss out on the opportunity, but you weren't really available to it. Learning to do all the things that I mentioned and more takes time and it takes practice. It takes a commitment to solve that kind of challenge in your life once and for all. And especially when I think about decision-making fatigue and constantly facing decisions to be made and being torn by wanting to do everything and yet not wanting to overcommit. It becomes important to simplify and get clear on what you really want to experience in your life, rather than just wanting to experience everything, which often happens with adults with ADHD. I hope this has been helpful and gives you some ideas about your personal situation with overcommitting. Transitioning to our next question. Thank you to Valerie in California for the third topic of aversion to physical movement. She asks, is there an aversion to physical movement that goes along with depression? Thanks for your question, Valerie. The short answer is yes. Depending on the severity of the depression that we're talking about, those with what is called major depressive disorder most often lack interest in day-to-day happenings, as well as often the desire to get up, get out of bed, get moving, and do anything. When you're severely depressed, you lack much energy. Movement expends energy, and hence the desire to conserve energy and not move often occurs. One of the well-known treatments for severe depression is actually movement or exercise, which shifts the state of mind of the person. However, it's kind of like a catch-22 situation. If you're depressed, you don't really feel like moving, even though it would be really helpful. It's often too much effort to just stand up and move from place to place. And if the person could get him or herself to move around and do even some very light exercise throughout the day, it would actually help them. For those who are depressed or feel depressed, it's not as severe as major depressive disorder, but exercise and movement would also be of great benefit to them. Again, even though the aversion to movement isn't as strong as with major depressive disorder, many depressed people just don't want to do very much of anything that isn't absolutely essential. And it's not just the physical movement like exercising that there's an aversion to. With severe depression, often the person suffering doesn't feel like engaging in any kind of conversation or being social because, again, it takes energy to do so, and they're conserving their energy. So I guess you could say that the underlying issue is conserving and spending energy, and when you're severely depressed, you typically want to conserve, not spend. I hope this input has been helpful to you. That's it for our 3 questions today. I want to thank Candace, Tammy, and Valerie again for their questions for the Ask Dr. B format. And remember, your questions matter to me. If I'm going to help make a difference in your lives, I need to know what your challenges are, what you're struggling with. I really, really want to know what the number one biggest struggle or frustration is that you're having right now. So I created a quick little survey for you. It's only 6 questions and it's brief. The link to the survey is in the show notes, as well as in the post for today's podcast episode. So I hope that you'll stop by my site and choose just to take a couple of minutes to respond to the survey. And thanks in advance for your participation. A favorite quote of mine. Aristotle said, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit." The question that I have for you at this point in our journey together is, if your life reflects what you've repeatedly done thus far, and you aren't happy with the looks of your life, are you ready to start small and repeatedly do something different that has the potential to shape your life in the most amazing ways? I appreciate you showing up to listen today and in the future. New episodes are released twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays. As a subscriber, the newest episode will be in your feed by 1 a.m. Pacific time. Plus, you won't miss out on any of the extra episodes that I create with special guests. Certainly a great reason to subscribe. And if you've asked me a question, I hope that you'll come back to hear my response and that it's of benefit to you. Remember, I love answering questions, so ask away for the Thursday episodes. I'm here for you, and I'm going to continue to tailor both the Ask Dr. B and the regular episodes to meet your needs. To do an even better job of that, I'd love to know what it is that you need to know or would just enjoy hearing my point of view on. Be sure to share this podcast with your friends and your family if you feel that they would benefit too. I love reading your reviews and the emails that you send me. They tell me that I'm meeting your needs, and I thank you for that. It means a lot to me to know that your life is getting a little bit better every time that we get together. So that's about it for today. If you'd like to be kept informed of new happenings with Dr. B, you can sign up on my website to receive periodic emails from me. Nothing superficial and not too often, because you don't need me cluttering up your inbox. For now, you can download today's show notes, participate in the quick little survey, and learn about other resources. That is, if that's of interest to you. Thanks for listening. Until the next time, bye for now.
Thanks for your undivided attention. If you're hungry to make positive changes in your life, head over to drbarbaracohen.com and see how Dr. B can help you today. Whether you love making changes with one-to-one attention and community support, or on your own with self-study, or could benefit from coaching or psychotherapy, you'll find all the information right there at drbarbaracohen.com.